Have you been looking forward to your summer grill fest? But you know, grilling can be carcinogenic. So what do? Do I give up this fun social event that is so much more than just food preparation, right? It's actually a social gathering. It's being outside. It's enjoying good company. It's moving away from the confined spaces of your kitchen to cooking and preparing food outside. Let me offer you a couple of tips here that I do. And who am I? I'm Kirstin Nussgruber from KirstinNussgruberCancerCareExpert. And here I really help people with cancer get out of overwhelm and helping them reclaim their lives. How we prepare food is very important, as we all know. And we know that with grilling, the dangers of carcinogens are associated with that. So let's take a look really at, it's about the types of food that we prepare. It's about the method that we use too, all right? So let's look at grilling meat and let's look at grilling vegetables. So are we supposed to eat meat on a cancer fighting diet? And the answer is really, well, let's take a look back and see what else you are offering up on the plate too. And when I think of grill fests that I host myself or I make myself, there's going to be a plethora of vegetables. So we want to always have the plant foods dominate. And we can do that with grilling as well. We can actually offer both. And that's the beauty of grilling too, because generally we have a bigger space in which we can prepare food. So it actually makes it a bit easier for us to do that as well. We can have the meat portion, we can eat it or not eat it, depending on where we are and what the balance of our diet is. And that's something that I go into when I coach my clients as well. But remember, grilling is about a social event. So we generally have a gathering of people around and they'll probably want to have some meat there too. So you want to make it safe for them as well as for you if you're enjoying the meat. And why is that an issue at all? Why is grilling meat a problem? Well, let's understand that when we're browning meat, it doesn't matter where we brown it. If we grill it, if we cook it, if we bake it, we are producing some molecules called cyclic amines. That is just a given. That's responsible for the taste, and also it's kind of a signal to tell us the food or the meat is now safe to eat. It's beyond the raw stage. However, what we found, and this goes back a couple of years ago, a couple of decades ago actually, is that when we expose meat, and that is white meat as well as red meat, to prolonged heat, we have another group of molecules that form within the cooked meat, and those are heterocyclic amines. And they are classified as carcinogens. And remember, this is if we expose to them on a very, very regular basis. There are about 17 different ones, heterocyclic amines. So there's a whole plethora of them around now. It's an umbrella term that we need to be aware of. And why do they form? Because in meat, in muscle meat, we get a molecule called creatine, and that combines with the amino acids, which is the protein portions, the protein components in the meat, as well as the natural sugar occurring, and that creates these kinds of compounds that can be carcinogenic if we are exposed to them for an extended period of time. And that's been shown by the National Cancer Institute as well as it's classified as a carcinogen actually. What else is the problem with meat is that when we have the fat or the juices of the meat drip down onto the heat source below, and we sometimes have a flare-up. It can be in the form of smoke. It can be in the form of flames as well. And that can coat the meat with a different compound called polycyclic, and I'm going to read that, aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs. Okay, another long word again. And that, unfortunately, is also found in smoked meat, right? So we want to kind of be aware of even, don't want to expose ourselves to even smoked food for any extended period of time. So that is also considered carcinogenic. It's also, these PAHs are also found in cigarette smoke as well as exhaust fumes. So we're not just exposed to them when we are grilling meat, or when, in particular, when we're grilling meat and when the juices of fats drip down and we have that flare up. But we actually find them in our environment as well. So what can we do? And why is this damaging to us? Well, it can damage our genes, both these carcinogenic compounds, if we have certain enzymes that then convert them. So again, it's not, direct given that this is going to cause cancer, and also the jury is still out there. Do these actually cause carcinogenic or cancer-causing genes? Are they then switched on in particular? Because remember, for cancer to develop, there needs to be kind of an environment conducive to that. So there haven't been any proven studies yet, although research is being done on different models here. But kind of, again, to me, that's just a warning flag. We just need to be mindful. What can we do? What is within our power to reduce our risk and reduce our exposure? And one thing that we also know is that the amount of these heterocyclic amines that are formed, now these are the compounds, the carcinogenic compounds formed within the meat. They are directly related also to the type of meat. So for example, bacon has the highest amounts in it. Chicken with skin is higher, for example, than beef too. So it depends on the type of meat that we use as well. And, you know, we can do certain things like take the skin of chicken, for example. So how can we mitigate the production of these heterocyclic amines, or can we actually do that? Can we reduce them? And the answer is a resounding yes, we can. There are certain compounds, certain food compounds that we can use and apply to reduce the formation of these carcinogens when meat is being exposed to this high heat. One of the things we can do is marinate or create spice rubs. Both of those are very, very effective, and it has been shown that they actually reduce the heterocyclic amines in meat. So basically, marinate away at your heart's content. Make sure you have some olive oil in there, and these are proven heterocyclic amine reducers. Olive oil. Then we have garlics and onion, the compounds in them as well. We have acids like lemon juice, in particular apple cider vinegar as well. We also have certain herbs, in particular rosemary has been found to be an HCA reducer as well. And then we have certain extracts of certain fruits, and these include blueberries. As we know, those are our potent cancer-fighting fruits anyway. Blackberries too, but kiwi as well, and cherries in particular. Then tea, like green tea, and even the South African herbal tea, rooibos tea, has been found to reduce heterocyclic amines as well. So in other words, include them in your marinades. I actually what I do is I use a blender, and you can create really delicious pastes that you can coat your meat with. And you're supposed to marinate for at least 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours, or even overnight. And it creates delicious flavors. Of course, you can add lots of spices to these marinades as well to make it really tasty. And by the way, traditional barbecue sauce has actually been shown to increase heterocyclic amines, and that is based on the fact that compounds in tomatoes, in the tomato sauce, have been found to do that, as well as often other ingredients that they add. And in particular, it's the fructose actually in the tomatoes. So we kind of don't want to add sugar to our marinades. And I know if you buy ready commercially made marinades or barbecue sauces, they almost always will have a sweetener in them. You do not need to do that. So please, homemade marinades can be so quick and easy to make. You know, basically you have some oil, you have an acid, and then you add lots of spices. You can even then, if you want to, like I said, just if you have a blender, which you should, if you're wanting to live a conquering cancer way of life, you should at least have a blender at home. You know, throw some fruits in there, create a paste in which you really marinate the meat. It really, really is delicious. And you're reducing the carcinogenic component, which means you can eat it, which is important. So in other words, you're not just preparing it for everybody else, but you can actually have a taste of it as well. Vegetables, of course, do not have this problem because they don't have creatine, the molecule creatine that can combine with the protein, amino acids, and the sugar, right? And also there's no fats or juices dripping down onto the heat source below. But we want to avoid the charring even here as well, because the charring creates another carcinogen, benzoyl pyrene, which we want to avoid. So just remember, and this is something you already know, stay away from the charred, blackened look. We do not want that. That is, although they're made up of different compounds, whether that you find that on meat or on vegetables, it's a big no-no. And try and prevent that from the outset. And you know, what we do at home is we have created a filter between the food that we grill and the underground heat source. So, and that is in the form of a cast iron platter. And that's what we use to grill the food on, so that there is kind of a buffer in between. And you also don't run the risk of having the flare up or the fire flare up, anything dripping down if you do meat as well. And you also don't necessarily get the charred look, although you have to flip often, okay? You have to, don't leave it unsupervised. You don't want the finished look to have the blackened appearance of it, as we so often think is associated with grilling. Just stay away from that, okay? Also make sure that you clean the grill as well if you're using it. It may sound so basic, but you can create, you know, the charring, charred bits and pieces are stuck to grill very often, and people are just becoming flippant about that. Close it up if you have a lid, increase the heat so that it really burns off, and then really take that iron brush and really scrub that off. Another tip as well, aluminum foil or aluminium foil, as we also say in the non-US English speaking part of the world. That studies have shown, actually by the World Health Organization, that exposing food with aluminum foil to high heat actually has the potential of leaching aluminum into the food at much higher levels than is permissible by the World Health Association. So someone has looked at that already before. So avoid that. We do not want to have aluminum foil in direct contact with food, especially if anything acidic is involved, and which if you are marinating, there will be some acidity there as well. So that's a big no-no as well. You know, use the, like I say, cast iron, use proper cooking utensils and not necessarily aluminum foil. If you want to use aluminum foil to cover already grilled food to keep it warm, that's an option. Just make sure it doesn't touch the food. In other words, allow a gap between where you end with the stacking of the food and where you know the aluminum foil will rest as a cover, so that you don't have it touching. Okay, you want to avoid that at all costs. Trim off any charred bits, trim off any excess fat of meats, take the skin off chicken. Those are also pretty obvious steps that you can take. And in general, just remember that the food doesn't need to be cooked to smithereens. You kind of want to just, you know, obviously meat needs to be cooked through, but vegetables don't need to be on the grill for a very long time at all to be delicious. And by the way, those marinades that you're using for the meat, you can also use for vegetables too. It makes them absolutely delicious. So I hope I've given you a couple of tips here to enjoy grilling, to have a kind of a sense of a guiltless grilling. Again, think about it. Frequency of use and exposure to this is very, very important. So if grilling is something you do 3 times a week, maybe rethink that. Or just make it include more vegetables based or vegetarian based. What I, for example, do is I have a really good recipe for a vegetarian burger, and what I do is I prepare them beforehand, I freeze them, and then I just basically need to reheat them. They don't need to be grilled as such, because there's no meat that needs to be cooked through. Those are other options too, to kind of increase the more vegetable exposure in your food as well, and reduce the meat exposure. And like I said, if you use the same marinades, the same spice rubs, you're still getting the same type of flavor, so you're not missing out so much on the flavor exposure there as well. But grilling, again, it's more than just food preparation. It's a social gathering, social event. Usually we are outside. I'm not outside today. I would have loved to have been there, but it's actually a rainy day here in New Jersey. But just a couple of things. I have a great blog on this too, and you'll find that at Kirstin'sCancerCare.com. That's my website. Have a look there. There are a couple of other interesting blogs there that I add to every now and then as well. It's evidence-based. I do look through the research that exists, because a lot is being looked at here, sometimes not just anecdotally, but also evidence-based. And there are a couple of things that you can do to reduce your risk for cancer, or even reduce your risk for cancer recurrence as well. So again, Kirstin'sCancerCare.com. Follow me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. Look for my name, Kirstin Nussgruber. And yeah, I hope I see you there. I hope I get to meet you, and I hope maybe I even hope to be able to coach you one day too. I do that. There's a free assessment call that I have. You can book that if you go to my website, Kirstin'sCancerCare.com, and I hope I shall see you there one day. Take care for now.